factory operated by two young entrepreneurs, Drew Hendrickson and Ben Voituna. Not being ones to avoid a challenge, Ben and Drew make bicycle parts.
Waterproof and rather friendly to the environment once it's done curing. So.
How many horrible examples of layup did you have before you arrived?
Quite a few. We've encountered a lot of different problems along this way, and for a while we were using a different glue that was just a cold forming regular like vacuum press veneer glue. And it worked pretty well, but it got incredibly hard as it dried, to the point where it often leave little shards of things around, and it took a lot longer to set up as well too. And that just worked well for the first couple that we did, but it wasn't really as good of a solution as this has proved to be. And then there's always the lovely fun problems if you don't get it lined up straight on the buck, then you end up with it curving and warping and not going straight. And the bamboo's nice since it has such a uniform grain structure, it doesn't warp too much, but I made a pair of maple ones for a friend, and there were many trials to get it anywhere near correct. So it's going to sit and dry for a second, but got some of those on there. And these, needless to say, warped quite a bit. So with regular wood and all the fun green patterns there, it can definitely be a little interesting. So the bamboo is a lot nicer because it works a lot better for that. So, so we've had lots of interesting things go awry, so to speak. So hopefully this will go a little bit smoother with just the bamboo. So
Where do you source your bamboo?
We get it from Seattle. There's a company that imports it there. Is it Bamboo Hardwoods?
Bamboo hardwoods.
Bamboo Hardwoods, yeah. And they've been great because they supply it to us in sheet form, and they'll roll it up to save on shipping and everything from there. And they work on sourcing it from fairly sustainable sources too, not all domestic, but sources that are at least mostly friendly in how they go through and practice what they're doing. So we enjoy using them. We get 4 different varieties from them. We get 2 thick-grained varieties, one in a darker carbonized, one in just sort of the regular bamboo color. Then we get 2 of the sort of a thin-grained pattern as well too, same sort of color variations. So that way you get 4 different sort of spreads across that. And then we'll do custom woods like the maples as well too, but that has certain caveats with it. So, so once this sets a little bit, we can throw it up in the press. We quickly learned that Gorilla Glue does bond to skin very well as well too. We're glued up, we're set up pretty well. We're detaped. Now we do 6 layers for the standard sort of short plank fender to keep it a little bit more rigid. The full fender that wraps the whole way around we do 5 with to keep it a little bit more flexible. So. Just kind of lay them up as so, and it's nice because it starts holding its shape pretty quickly, and we only have to leave it on the press for about 3 to 4 hours total, which means we can get a few turned out in a day, which is pretty good. Make sure everything's squared up and lined up. all you do is clamp it down and let it go for a couple hours. Like so. And then a couple hours later we get a fully finished one, well not fully finished, but a fully hardened one. Which looks a bit more like this guy. Nice and ugly and full of glue everywhere, but definitely holding its shape. And what would you say a splinter from this feels like?
Hypodermic needle without the rubbing alcohol.
Worst splinters I've ever gotten comes from bamboo, so it'll get you. Get that locked in there. So just one more pass and we should be all set. We're in good shape. So we end up with a little straighter edge, a little bit less glue on the edge, and then all we have left to do at that point in time is give it those two little end curves, and we can move on from there.
Process. These are close to. First step is our rough sanding, which is what awaits that one Ben just trimmed down, and then after that it's a work through the grain grit of the sandpaper up to about 320, at which point we do our first coat of oil. Once that dries, we take it off and do another sanding down to the 600 this time, just to get off any of the pools of oil that have collected on the top. Then we oil it again, do a final rub down of that once it's dried, then 2 coats of shellac with steel wool in between is the final finishing process. So they end up with sort of almost a semi-gloss finish, but we rub it out to give it sort of a dull look, but it's quite waterproof. But we've found that about 5 fenders is about the maximum that patients will allow before you got to move on to some other part of the process. So.
But that very even, very long grain pattern also leads to very easy chipping out. And we'll be able to see that here once I'm done drilling this guy. There'll definitely be evidence on the rear side of some of the chipping out that happens. Like that, we've got evenly spaced holes that we can go through and check out, but as you can see on the reverse side, it does prone itself to quite a bit of chipping when changed too much from what the fenders were when we sort of keep the bent sort of idea and working with bamboo and everything as well too. So with this we needed to be a little bit more substantial, so we started with a bending ply center, so it's nice and malleable in one direction, and the other direction it's extremely flexible with minimal sort of chip out or damage or anything there. And we start with 3 layers of that and then go with the bamboo over top of it, still keep with the same bamboo look. And this is just an example demo one that we pulled out of there. This, since it's such a large piece, it was something that we didn't want to go through and construct similar to how we had the buck for the fender. We had to construct something a little bit larger, so this is actually something that is done with a more traditional vacuum bagging process, like more traditional veneer work. And we have that downstairs, so it's in the basement, it's just sort of in a corner, but we've got a full buck for that we go through and bend all the layers over, assemble that, and it comes out about as rough as the fenders do, and requires a lot of similar sort of cutting down to introduce the angles and cuts and everything. And
We both studied it in school pretty extensively. We went to CMU for industrial design, and the second year of that was very making based. They went through, and the year began with learning how to use individual woodshop machines, and by the end of the year, some of us were a little more interested than others. But it was something I always, and both of us always continued to appreciate over the time we were there, even when the projects didn't require it necessarily. We always tried to find a way to get back in there to create some portion of the final product in the shop, just to keep the hands on the process of making it a little bit. So after school, we left and we were thinking about doing something, stick with what we like doing and what we're good at, and what we can maybe hope to get set up in our own place a little bit. And obviously our shop is sort of the model of the absolute basic wood shop, but we made enough sort of adjustments to the setup to make it something that sort of, there's obviously things that we would like to have and like to be able to accomplish, but.
What took you into industrial design? I mean, why was that?
Well, that's a good question. I mean, I think we both have always loved both deconstructing things and then constructing things either out of what was deconstructed or just regular things as well too, and just sort of enjoying how things are built, put together, how to then build things. And then I think as we learn more about the world, going through just basic, elementary and second ed and everything, realizing that you can do these things to help influence and change what exists in the world, started becoming sort of a higher level of, oh yeah, I like playing with toys and building things. It became something a little bit more fun above and beyond that.
Get out the popcorn, it's time for home movies. Summer vacation brings home movies in the fall.